I know that. We're enjoying unprecedented success, both academically and athletically. And as we look to the future, we're extremely well positioned with countless opportunities in front of us. We also know that you don't live too long on last year's laurels. Well, we've had not only a terrific year this past year, but for a number of years. For a number of years as well, we have talked about the ACC network, where we were going with television. We continue to move ahead with significant excitement and a lot of optimism as we count down to the launch of the ACC network with ESPN. Since our announcement last year, at this time, at this event, our attention has understandably, I think, been focused on the preparations of the linear network. And while that has been going on, if you recall, we launched at this time last year the expected rollout, which actually occurred last September, of the ACC Network Extra, which is our live event digital platform. A lot of people made that extremely successful this year, and we're grateful to those many individuals, both on our campuses and with our partners at ESPN, who helped produce and distribute over 1,450 events last year. That far exceeded our goal of 600 events. So a tremendous first year in that way. As for the linear network, there's a lot of activity currently underway, and that activity is on our 15 campuses. It's at our offices in Greensboro. It's at ESPN campuses in Bristol, as well as here in Charlotte, as we prepare for the launch in just 24 months. Preparing to produce and distribute over 1,500 events between the linear and digital networks requires a lot of planning and preparation, and obviously some lead time to do it right and launch it in the way we want to launch it. ACC and ESPN teams are diligently working to complete the multiple tasks that are required for the launch, and we're extremely pleased with the progress. And not only pleased with the progress, we're as a part of that, right on schedule. And in several instances, slightly ahead of schedule in the various phases of the network operations and build out. There have been several things written and speculated about the network in recent weeks. I'm sure some of you may have questions related to the network, but I trust you will understand that we're at a stage in our timetable and process with ESPN where it's simply not going to be prudent for us to discuss until we reach the launch the specific business aspects that are a work in progress. In the meantime, we will again have superb coverage of ACC football this fall through ABC and ESPN, the ACC syndicated network through Raycom Sports, and the Fox regional networks, as well as ACC Network Extra for digital live events and the ACC DN for supplemental coverage of all things ACC. So the coverage of Atlantic Coast Conference football is outstanding and only stands to get even more outstanding as we move forward. Now, as you might expect, I'd like to take a minute to look back at the excellent success our schools and programs had last year. When you look at the collective accomplishments illustrated behind me, from the announcement of our extended grant of rights and upcoming ESPN extension and ACC channel, to our league, our student athletes, leading our peer conferences academically by almost any measure, as our programs have consistently done, and as I think you know is very important in this league, historically and traditionally, to winning team national championships, including for only the 10th time in NCAA history and the 3rd time in ACC history, capturing both the football and men's basketball titles in the same year, to individual performances that garnered both national championships and numerous national accolades for our players and our coaches. With all of that said, I think it's pretty obvious that the past year certainly was one of the league's most successful years, and possibly the most successful year that our league has ever had. Specifically related to football, this event provides the opportunity to celebrate the collective successes of our teams. And one thing I've learned in college athletics over the years is that when you have the opportunity to celebrate those kinds of successes, you should do it. We're coming off a year that included Clemson's college football playoff national championship, 11 bowl teams, all that finished with winning records, which led all conferences, Lamar Jackson's Heisman Trophy, and Deshaun Watson finishing second in that voting. 9 postseason wins, including another Orange Bowl trophy, setting a league record and tying the national record ever for any conference, and the nation's best record against both non-conference and other Power 5 conference opponents. But it's really not about one year. It's not just about last year or even the last couple of years. Our conference schools, programs, coaches, and players have built a strong foundation for the future. 2 of the last 4 national championships, 2 of the last 4 Heisman trophies, 5 consecutive Orange Bowl championships, winning 8 games in the BCS, New Year's Six, and college football playoff since 2012. The achievements in football and accomplishments across all sports, coupled with the continued academic success and the future of the ACC network, has literally been years in the making. The strategic vision by the leadership at our schools, whether on our individual campuses or collectively at the league level, combined with our dedicated business partners, is what has us so well positioned now, as well as for the long and short-term future. Now, as I said, you can't live in the past in college athletics. You move on to the next year. And that's why you're here today as we start looking forward to the 2017 football season and ACC year. Looking ahead to this season, our teams are once again playing arguably the toughest non-conference schedules of any league. That's something we started talking more and more about 5, 6, 7 years ago, that we had to step up to the plate, improve our own league, play our share of tough outside competition, and win our share of those games. Our programs have done that. They've done all of those 3 things over the last half dozen years. The first week of the season this year will feature ACC teams in many of the top games, including neutral site games here in Charlotte, in Washington, D.C., and culminating with our annual Labor Day Monday night game as a part of the 2 Chick-fil-A kickoff games at Atlanta's brand new Mercedes-Benz Stadium. In addition to the non-conference slate, we continue to highlight our teams with attractive and challenging conference matchups throughout the fall. The conference schedule is not only rigorous, and in my opinion, I think it's the most rigorous it has ever been in this league's history. I think we're deeper than we've ever been. I think we've got more good teams than we've ever had. I think it's tougher to win the Atlantic Coast Conference in football than it has ever been. So the conference schedule is not only rigorous, but it also is filled with what we think are compelling rivalries based on the quality of our programs. I just left a coaches meeting with the Atlantic Division coaches just before this meeting, and we had some great conversations. And I was telling the story of going back a few years when we were leaving the BCS behind and moving to the college football playoff, and talking to our coaches at Amelia Island at our spring meeting about the importance of us stepping up program-wise, and talking with our athletic directors about the importance of that we had to make a better showing going forward, to have our place in the playoff. Because you know and I know that in some years of the BCS, we didn't perform very well in those BCS games. And it was there for the world to see. They stepped up, and by they, I'm talking about everybody in our league. But I told them the story about Dabo Sweeney in that particular meeting. And Dabo said, listen, we've got to do what the commissioner's talking about. And any of you that don't think this league is going to be a prominent part of the playoff, you need to take a look in the mirror. We need to take a look in the mirror. Because if you play the right people and you develop your program enough to win enough of the right games, there's no reason we shouldn't be in the playoff every year. And I thank Dabo for following up as he did with his comments at that particular meeting, because it obviously resonated. And certainly it resonated at Clemson with Clemson's national championship.